The Texas A&M AgriLife Extension Service has been dedicated to educating Texans for over a century. In 1915, the Extension Program was established under the federal Smith-Lever Act to deliver university knowledge and agricultural research findings directly to the people. Ever since, AgriLife Extension programs have addressed the emerging issues of the day, serving diverse populations across the state. Texans turn to Extension for solutions in horticulture, agriculture, 4-H and youth, and family and consumer sciences. Extension agents respond not only with answers, but also with resources and services that result in significant returns on investment to boost the economy. Join us Fridays at 1 o'clock for the AgriLife Extension Hour. Today on the AgriLife Extension Hour, we will be featuring the Agricultural Toolbox with host Mike Heimer.
Good afternoon. I'm glad you're able to join us today. And we've got some special guests with us today. But hopefully everybody had a great Christmas and had a safe New Year. And now they're going to get ready to start looking for spring. I'm not sure if we're ever going to get any winter, but it seems like we always get a little cold day or two. And then it warms right back up, which is really kind of irritating the plants and livestock and everything else out there. But today I thought we'd focus on a critical part of agriculture. And I think most people don't realize how important honeybees are to the way we live and the food production we enjoy and the opportunities that are made available to us through a lot of the insect population that's out there. So, I think we just take for granted a lot of things that occur out there in nature. And we've got a honeybee insect out there that is very productive, very prolific, and does need some care because there's a lot of things in our environment now that are maybe slowing it up and hindering its ability to be productive and help us with our plant propagation and production. But today we've got James and Sherry Elam. They're very involved beekeepers in this area, and I thought we'd just visit a little bit today, back and forth as far as the beekeeping, the bees themselves. Talk a little bit about beekeeping. I know it's a tremendous interest. There's a lot of folks that are trying to come up with a box and put things out there and maybe not sure exactly what all is involved. But, first off, let's just talk a little bit about the bees themselves. I think, if you read the literature, they've talked about our native bees or wild bee swarms have decreased just because of the mite population and some of the parasite populations that are out there that are impacting them. So, it's really critical that our beekeepers be heavily involved with maintaining this population and overcoming that part.
That's absolutely true, and that's where our club comes in. Mm-hmm. There are so many small-scale beekeepers now that are doing it for that very reason, to try to increase the number of bees that are out there foraging, pollination, and honey production, of course. Mm-hmm. We boast right at 200 small-scale beekeepers in our club. But, there's been a lot of effect on the honeybees over the past years. If you kept bees in the 80s, you didn't really have much trouble. You put them in a box, and you kind of walked away and robbed their honey every once in a while. But these days there are pests and pesticides that have made a huge impact. James was doing some research the other day about the numbers actually have stabilized.
Yes, numbers nationwide and worldwide are being reported as having stabilized where they've been declining since the 80s. And part of the justification for that, it's not that we've solved any of their problems. A lot of it has to do with the fact that there are more beekeepers now than there used to be.
Exactly. I mean, and it sounded like Europe was even suffering much more so than North America. We knew we had a problem, but it sounded like Europe was really seeing a decrease in their bee population and its ability to help out with pollination.
There was a statement at one time that I read last year that said that not a single true feral colony of honeybees existed in North America and Canada, including Canada. Mm-hmm. Whether that's still true or not, we don't really know. But the fact that beekeepers keep bees in their backyards, in their pastures, it's a natural condition for a colony to swarm. That's what bees do to reproduce. Mm-hmm. And even as management practices are in place by beekeepers, the bees still get away from us. Right. And when they swarm, where do they go? They go to the woods or to the barn, and they've regenerated themselves in a natural outdoor setting again. So the hobbyist beekeeper, the small scale, the commercial beekeepers, we are aiding the worldwide population, not just by the bees that we keep, but by the bees that we lose.
We got some latest numbers from Mary Reed. You may be familiar with her. She's one of the apiary inspectors at A&M, the Texas Apiary Inspection Service. And if I'm not mistaken, it's 106,000 colonies worth over $20 million right now in the state of Texas. And of course, that number's fluid because, just because we have a colony today doesn't mean we will tomorrow. Right. And the value of that colony may change too. What'd you figure, like $188 a box?
Colony, correct.
If we purchase that, it's worth a whole lot more.
Exactly. In each of the states, I've seen some numbers out of Florida with their 250 to 300 million boxes or hives in that state, and again, that's a pretty intense agricultural area also.
It truly is. They've got the citrus and everything.
Well, let's step back a second and just talk about the bees themselves. Okay. I don't think people will walk up and just see bees, and again, there's a fright factor, but they don't realize that there's different bees. There's the queen, there's workers, there's drones,
and which ones sting you?
Let's talk about which the males, which the females.
Well, you won't get stung by a queen bee because she's going to stay at home.
Right.
She's got work to do. She's laying eggs. You're going to get stung, if you get stung, by the foragers because that probably means you got in their space. Drones don't sting. They've got one and only job, and that's to mate the queen.
That's the males, right?
That's the males.
Right. The drone is the male, and the drone typically only leaves a colony for 2 to 3 hours a day, and they don't exist within a colony of honeybees for typically the winter months of the year. If there's
they're kind of mean to the drones. They just kick them out and says, "You're on your own, guys."
Well,
the drones are allowed to starve, and part of the reason for that is they're completely non-productive.
Right.
The only thing they do.
Do you see any relationship?
They don't feed themselves. They don't clean the inside of the hive.
They don't rear young. They don't do anything.
They don't. They do nothing.
Their one and only job is to mate the queen, and then they die. So
at that occurrence, they die.
And the bees that if you were to be at the park and you see a trash can with a bunch of buzzing bees around it, we obviously don't recommend going over there and messing with them. Mm-hmm. They're going for the sugar in the Coke can, Dr. Pepper can. Right. That's their natural instinct is to seek out nectar or sugar sources. So if you're going to get stung, it's probably because you either swatted at them or you have put yourself in their place where they're working.
And that brings up 2 good points. That the honeybees that you're seeing are female worker bees. They are the foragers. Mm-hmm. It's not the drone. It's not the queen. So when we see a bee out in the pasture or in the yard or on the flowers, we say, "Hi, girl."
Yeah.
Yeah, because that's a she that's there.
It is, and they have different stages of their life. And of course, in the spring, summer, particularly, they only live 3 weeks. Right. So you're looking at, okay, so they've started off, they've hatched or they've emerged, and then from that day to 3 weeks, they've gone through their entire life cycle from being house bees, nurse bees, foragers, guard bees, to back to house bees to dead. So what you're seeing out in the foragers, that's just a few, they're just a couple of weeks old, not even that, like 8 or 9, 10 days, I think is that time period. So these are young little bees out there doing.
And what's happening to them is they're wearing themselves out. Right. It's like a deer that wears its teeth off from eating. And mm-hmm. Well, they're not outliving their lifespan. The honeybees aren't. They're wearing their wings out. Right. Their antennae are being broken, and multiple factors occur that reduce the lifespan. This time of year is the time of year that bees live the longest.
It is.
The winter months, because of the relative inactivity. We talked about the cool weather, the rain. Bees typically don't fly in the rain. Bees don't hibernate. Mm-hmm. Bees stay within their colony working, and while they may take a still break, the colony is up and functioning 24 hours a day. Right. It is always
they don't sleep.
It's always a work in
like
progress.
Maybe a 30-second little cat nap, but it's not even sleeping. It's just a dormant, stop the wing flapping. And he was talking about the wings flapping increases their rate of how long they are here, 11,400 times a minute when they're flying.
And interesting enough, that's how they heat the hive itself.
It is. And control the temperature. I mean, the humidity level in the hive. So if it's too wet out, oh gosh, and it's wet outside right now. We went into our colonies yesterday for the first time in a few weeks, because sometimes like this time of year, it's if it's cool, we can't go in and check. Typically, we're just feeding, trying to maintain those that are alive. Were alive in November. They've got to be our nurse bees. They've got to rear the ones that are going to be coming in spring, so we've got to keep them alive. We try to not disturb them, but like we went in yesterday, everybody was doing really well. It was a nice warm day. They weren't even too aggressive for the first time in a few weeks, but we fed really good. We feed right now sugar syrup. It's a 2-to-1 mixture, 2 parts sugar, 1 part water, and it emulates honey. We can't make honey nectar, but it's the closest to the honey content because that's what they feed off of. But we fed and we checked, and everybody was doing pretty well. Hopefully, they'll make it another few 6-8 weeks.
We encountered some moisture in our colonies, so we took our own particular corrective actions to try to help them out. Animal husbandry isn't restricted to horses and cows.
Exactly.
It applies to honeybees and a variety of things in this world. And one of the things that we teach within our local club, MoCo Bees, is that we have a responsibility to our colonies, that if we're going to go out on the limb and make an investment of bees and then one day decide that we don't want them anymore, we can't just abandon those bees. Those bees are like a pet. They're an agricultural producer. They have to be treated with care and compassion, and we do. We don't just say we don't like that colony and knock the box over and go buy a new one. No, we work it out.
I think people not you're talking about the numbers there, but the sheer attrition that normally occurs in a hive. As far as that queen is laying, up to 2,000 eggs a day?
Correct.
And then there's natural die-off. So, I mean, people see dead bees around, and that's just natural. That's because they'll die out. And I think people get alarmed when they'll see a few dead bees, and they say, well, something's wrong, but realize that they are fairly short-lived for the intensity of work that they're putting together. So there's a big responsibility on them to, get their job done and keep going. But, we do have a responsibility to maintain that hive. If we're going to get committed to it, then, we've got to be following through with those right practices. On the beekeeping, 3 minutes. Okay, that's what word. I'm up. Back is to the clock. I'm not looking at that. So we're just kind of making this along here. And let's before too long. Let's go ahead and get started. Maybe on the hives themselves, the structures. I mean, you look at the on mark catalogs, things like that. Everybody's used to the white box that's out there.
Sure.
And now you're seeing all sorts of ones that look like mailboxes and just anything else you can dream up.
Well, we figure that's somebody with too much time on their hands.
That's what I was wondering. Can we expect any differences in the survival of bees in these decorative boxes?
Absolutely not. There are studies that show that they know their home. Now, pheromones, the queen pheromone is how they know exactly which one is their box.
Correct.
But you can, there is some evidence that if you've got white box after white box after white box, that they might get confused if they've been out foraging all day, and they would go into the one right beside if they're very close, because the pheromone might kind of drift. And it has been proven that a little bit of a marker, a house number, might make a difference, and if it's a red box or a purple box, it might make them more familiar.
A colony of honeybees is as comfortable living under a sofa on the front porch as it is in a tree, as it is in the white boxes that we see.
It is.
The white boxes are called Langstroth hives. They were developed as a method of managing bee colonies where you could actually inspect and
manage each frame. That way you can, and plus it's universal. So if I've got a frame of bees or if I've got a box, it will fit your box. Right. So
beekeeping throughout history, as you get back into, probably into the 1800s, to harvest honey, you actually had to kill the colony of bees to get to the honey itself. And the Langstroth hive allows us to remove individual frames of comb and not
And
only
inspect 'em.
and not only extract that honey if we deem it necessary or practical to do so, but even more importantly, to manage that colony, to inspect for mites, as you mentioned before, disease, correct any problems that may occur, like moisture, like we found yesterday. And you can't do that in a setting,
stump.
Yeah, in a stump or
in a sofa on a porch.
That's right.
We actually did hear that story. Someone captured a colony out of a sofa that had, some people call that yard furniture.
Yes.
And apparently there was a colony that had moved in
Or
a
the
sofa.
eaves of your house or
Yeah,
place
right,
else. And
Absolutely.
Right.
yeah, it's funny. They'll give me a call and says, we got bees, on the back porch. And you go look at the situation, and there is a comb built up inside the structure of that house that did not occur in the last week.
No.
If it had been there a while.
It
So you
takes
say
quite a while.
you need to kind of be aware of what's going on.
Yeah,
around
and
you.
there's that's a whole topic all on its own about
Right.
extracting those and getting them gone and really truly getting them gone. There's a kind of a crossover of fields there. You need a beekeeper to remove them, but you probably need a home remodeler to put it back together, because we're going to remove some siding and who knows what in order to get to that colony. And so often folks will go in, if they're not certified through the Texas Apiary Inspection Service, they'll go in, they'll just rip apart your house, take out the bees, vacuum them out, leave you all of the comb and the honey dripping there, and you've got a mess because instantly wax moths, hive beetles. It's gonna what do we call that? Slimed. When you walk out and your colony it's got slime coming out the front entrance, you've been slimed, and that's overtaken of pests, and that is going to happen inside your wall.
And it equally applies that if you think that a way to eliminate honeybees from a wall cavity, like in the brick on the side of your house, you can't just take the can of wasp killer and start spraying them
In that little hole.
and ignoring it and plug that up, because what you're leaving behind is potentially not only a colony of bees that are internal that are going to die inside, but as Sherry was mentioning, the comb that's present, and that's going to turn into one of the biggest nightmares you've ever exposed yourself
nasty
to.
mess.
Because
It does stink bad. You smelled it.
before
It
you
does.
know it, you've got larvae and all kind of things that are drawing nasties into your house
and it can
coming
seep,
through your sheetrock.
It can seep through. It can seep through into your sheetrock, and it is a nasty mess.
So it should be handled by a beekeeper or
We do have a
professional.
link on our website, mocobees.com, that links you to the TAIS to kind of, you want to make sure that who you're dealing with to extract your bees has been around the block and has gone. I think they pay like $35 a year. And it just pretty much ensures that they've done this before and they hold themselves accountable to what their actions are. It's one thing to pick up a little swarm that's hanging on a tree limb.
Vacuum those guys up and leave.
Yeah, right. It's another when you're getting into somebody's house.
Yeah. And that's the thing you talk about. Whether regardless of what service you're going to hire, the folks are going to come in and you check your references and make sure there's somebody who's going to do a good job. Because, like I said, it does get to be a real challenge when you got a mess like that. And if they've been in that wall for 2 or 3 years, it's incredible the size of the comb that's going to be in there.
It is, isn't it?
And it's a devastating mess. And then at the same time, if you're going to look at insecticides, then we need to, it needs to be a licensed, someone structural pest that's licensed to come in and do that. You can't just hire anybody to do that.
That's right.
All right, we'll step away for a few minutes and for an ad, and then we'll come back and visit a bit more about productivity. You are listening to the Extension Hour on irlonestar.com.
Are you interested in learning more about preparing quick, healthy, and safe meals for your family? Would you like to spend time with others learning tips and tricks, along with practicing and tasting nutritious food? If so, the On the Road to Healthy Living Mobile Cooking School is for you. Call Amy Ressler at Texas A&M AgriLife Extension Service at 936-539-7825 to find a class near you or volunteer to host a class.
Tune in to Chamber Chat with your host, Courtney Galley and Samantha Good, with the Conroe Lake Conroe Chamber of Commerce, every first Tuesday of the month at 11 a.m. I'm one of your hosts, Courtney Galley. Samantha and I will chat about the Conroe Chamber's upcoming events and programs for the month. Relax with a cup of joe or your favorite drink for Chamber Chat.
At Jazzy Junk, volunteers reclaim, restore, and recycle. Jazzy Junk is a non-profit resale storefront where you will discover wonderful, unique finds at very affordable prices on furniture, antiques, books, art, home decor, and more. When you shop Jazzy Junk, you support New Danville, a community for adults with developmental disabilities. We receive new donations daily, so plan a visit to Jazzy Junk today to find that perfect item or gift. Our motto is here today, gone today. So remember to hurry in and shop often for the best selection. Jazzy Junk is located in the outlets at Conroe on League Line Road and I-45 North. Call 936-441-4500 or visit our website, jazzyjunk.org. That's JUNQUE for more information and store hours.
Hi, this is BJ Orner from Montgomery County Performing Arts Society. I'm here to remind you to get your tickets now for all the upcoming events that McPass has to offer. All shows will be held at the beautiful Crichton Theater in downtown Conroe. Call 936-441-7469 for your tickets today, or go to our website, www.mcpass.org, for more information. Hope to see you at the show.
You are listening to the Extension Hour on irlonestar.com.
Glad to have you back with us, and today we're visiting with Mr. and Mrs. Elam and talking about honeybees. And again, I don't think most people realize how important they are to the productivity and seeing the food that's on the shelves, in the counters there, as far as fresh vegetables and all the produce that we're able to enjoy, and the fact that beekeepers play such a critical part in that, and the fact that there is an industry out there that actually rents these boxes, and there are folks who've got enough numbers there that they'll contract them, and they get moved around the country. And that's most people don't realize. They just figure they sit in the backyard in the neighborhood there, and that's all they do. But they get moved all the way across the country, and it's an important part of the deal.
And that's coming up real soon. A lot of the commercial guys are going to be shipping theirs off to almonds, which of course is California. 90% of the almonds in the world are produced or grown in California. They send their bees over there. They rent them by the box and stay for about 3 weeks. Now, when they come back, they've not gathered nectar. Almonds are a pollen-only producing tree, but it's a pretty necessary thing for our beekeepers to send them that direction.
Well, and the pollen, talking about pollen and how the bees interact with the almond trees, almonds require 100% pollination by honeybees exclusively.
Right.
No other insect pollinates almond trees.
Right. And like you say, fruits and vegetables, and a big part of, like we were talking about earlier, the small-scale beekeepers, even those of us that are just rural or even urban gardeners, H-E-B, Kroger, they've all kind of gotten on the bandwagon of it's from Texas. It came from a Texas garden. They're even buying from small family, I don't think that they call it a garden, but production that might just do squash or might just do cucumbers. And if it weren't for honeybees, these folks wouldn't be able to do it. And we truly believe the small-scale beekeeper has made an impact on that. Of course, the commercial guys send to watermelon. And
blackberries, blueberries.
Absolutely. The varieties are almost endless, and as are the flavors of various honeys.
Yeah.
But the commercial beekeepers were allowed to expand their area of pollination by the advent of that white box we were talking about.
Right.
That's what we see loaded on the 18-wheelers and traveling. There are other methods of keeping bees, top bar hives and ware hives, but the migratory hive, which is the white box, is what allows for that worldwide movement of colonies.
When you see the bees are actually pulled. I mean, we're talking about California and their importance there, but back northeast, when you get the blueberries and things like that, and a lot of the berry crops in that part of the country, that they're relying on bees there, and so a lot of times those bees will make several stops across the country during their use period.
Right.
Yes, they will. Sherry was referring to one of our friends who will be sending his probably 3,500 colonies to California for the almonds, and then he'll bring them back to Texas for a very short time period just to clean the boxes out and make sure that he takes appropriate management practices for them. And then he goes to North Texas for watermelons, and then they go over to the Navasota area, and those colonies are just moving, and then somewhere along the way he stops and does an extraction, gets rid of the excess honey, and the bees are going back out again. They're working.
Right.
Well, without the commercial guys, we truly wouldn't be able to go grocery shopping. I can't remember how many commercial people what was it, 1,600. There is a lot of commercial beekeepers, but not near as many as there used to be. The hobby / small scale beekeepers have well exceeded that, but without those commercial guys, if you're going down the freeway and you see an 18-wheeler full of honeybee colonies, it's a sight to see. So I've seen some that didn't have nets over them. I was always amazed at that. I saw one last spring that was traveling out that didn't have a net over it, and I thought, well, I wonder how they even get there with any bees, because you'll see them under the nets. Right. They're kind of be stuck to the nets there, but they do get there. That's that pheromone we were talking about earlier. They want to stay where that queen is, and they know they're traveling down the road. So.
Well, honey is a commodity. It's traded just like oil, and
it is.
Take your pick of products. And worldwide markets fluctuate just like anything else does. The price of honey is very much dependent upon the success of the commercial beekeeper. Our local honey supply quite often comes from our roadside vendors or from our local grocery stores, representing some real Texas honey producers and some that are brought in.
Just because it says local on the bottle, doesn't necessarily. If it says local and it's got a Nacogdoches, Lufkin, Dallas address, it's not local to you.
Local is defined as within 50 miles of where you live, and there's not a lot of regulations that govern honey. Honey is what honey is. Honey is not cinnamon honey. Honey is not buttered honey.
The
word honey
they put on it. Yeah.
The word honey is what it is. It cannot be mixed with anything else. So if you're buying pure honey, that's what it's supposed to be. It's supposed to contain the pollen. When it doesn't contain the pollen, there's a question mark as whether it's really honey or not.
And to get to you looking at the food sources, I know that in visiting with beekeepers, and then you'll say the early production off of Yopon, how that's a clearer, lighter type of honey. So most people figure honey's honey, but
it's not.
What they're feeding on makes a tremendous difference on what that honey looks like and how good it is.
And how good it is. Yeah. Some things at our annual Texas Beekeepers Association convention, we do a honey contest, and I think that one of the we'll call it descriptive words of one of them was that it tasted burnt. Well, you got to wonder what in the world those bees were foraging on for that taste to come out, that flavor to come out. Some honeys are very, very good. Some are really not. And of course, that's your opinion, my opinion. We think our honey's the best.
Right. It's supposed to be.
Well, it is. Actually, in 2014, so did the TBA. We won first place. I have to throw that out there. I cannot. Okay, but
that just shows that our local producers know what they're doing.
Well, I don't think we do, but the bees sure do. Okay. We're just beekeepers. What do we know?
Spring honey is typically lighter colored honey, and fall honey is typically dark, depending upon the area that you're in. That does affect the flavor. So if you're used to buying from one specific supplier throughout the year, you'll notice the color may change as time passes.
Mm-hmm. And I think we focus on the vegetables, but forage crops are also heavily impacted. All the clovers that we enjoy in the spring, the color that's there, the crimson clover, the white clovers, and that's all. The bees are out there busy as they
We
can
plant
be.
that just because we want that really good. And a lot of beekeepers will move to tallow. Tallow trees, which we know are invasive, and so many people are trying to cut them out because they'll just take over a pasture if you let them. Right. Beekeepers love those tallow grows. They make for great honey.
Right. The Yopon, the tallow, all good honey from our local sources.
They are. And right now the honey price is kind of up there because of such a wet spring last year. There was not a lot of time for them to forage out, so the prices have kind of gone up a little bit.
Good deal. All right, I think we're going to take a break here shortly, then we'll come back and talk about our educational activities that are going on and tied to that industry. You're listening to the Extension Hour with Texas A&M AgriLife. Visit us online at montgomery.agrilife.org.
Doing business since 1985, Assistance League of Montgomery County is a nonprofit, all-volunteer organization where all proceeds stay in Montgomery County. Through our Operation School Bell program, we have provided new clothes to over 50,000 students in our county. Visit our thrift shop at 126 North San Jacinto Street in downtown Conroe or call us at 936-760-1151. Don't forget to like us on Facebook.
It's 1:31 right here on IRLoneStar.com with the Extension Hour with Texas A&M AgriLife. We're going to do the weather and traffic at the bottom of the hour right now for the Montgomery County area. Right now there's an overcast. It's around 61 degrees outside, humidity at 87%. Today's detailed weather forecast, there's a 50% chance of showers and thunderstorms after 2 p.m. throughout the county, but it'll be mostly cloudy with a high of 65 and a low of 48. We are expecting rain and heavy storms tonight, folks, so please be careful on this Friday night. Traffic-wise, in the Montgomery County area, let's start with I-45 northbound. There has been an incident reported right there at the 242 exit and I-45 northbound. Other than that, you're good to go all the way through Willis. Southbound from Willis all the way through Spring, good to go. 242 from the 1488 cross and then also to Patton Village, east and west, you're good to go. I don't see any accidents. 105 all the way from Cleveland to Montgomery, you're good to go too. 1488 Magnolia to I-45, I don't see any accidents or incidences east or westbound. It is 1:32. We're going to get back to the Extension Hour right after these messages.
Hi folks, it's your old buddy Luke Clayton, and I want to invite you to join me every Saturday morning right here on Lone Star Internet Radio from 8 to 9 for Outdoors with Luke Clayton and Friends. Bill Dance is a frequent guest. Larry Weisser and Mr. Whitetail is on the show every week. We talk a lot of hunting and fishing and generally have a good time. So remember, every Saturday morning, 8 to 9, right here on Lone Star Internet Radio.
The East Texas Dream Center is in need of your help. We are a nonprofit Christian organization that houses women and children who are trying to get their lives back after being homeless, abused, or addicted. We are conveniently located at 301 South 1st Street, Conroe, Texas, 77301, right here in Montgomery County. Our needs are financial and every needs of gasoline, cleaning supplies, laundry soap, Lysol, and whatever else God puts in your heart. To help our ladies and children, please consider a donation. You may visit our website at www.easttexasdreamcenter.org. Again, so you don't forget, it's www.easttexasdreamcenter.org. Donations are tax deductible. Remember what Jesus said, with God, nothing is impossible.
Doing business since 1985, Assistance League of Montgomery County is a nonprofit, all-volunteer organization where all proceeds stay in Montgomery County. Through our Operation School Bell program, we have provided new clothes to over 50,000 students in our county. Visit our thrift shop at 126 North San Jacinto Street in downtown Conroe or call us at 936-760-1151. Don't forget to like us on Facebook.
You're listening to the Extension Hour with Texas A&M AgriLife Extension. Visit us online at montgomery.agrilife.org.
All righty, welcome back to the Toolbox and our opportunity here and visit with things related to agriculture. And we've been visiting about honeybees and the fact that it's such a growing industry, particularly at the won't say the novice or the homeowner level as far as the involvement. It's just a tremendous number of people are involved with that. And we do have a very active local club. And I think this is, these types of clubs or organizations or associations, as you might call them, are critical because we allude to the fact there's so many new people out there that have not been involved with agriculture, seeing this as an opportunity, whether it be a family opportunity to get together and work together and enjoy that, or it's, it's a food source that they need. There's people allergic to things, and, that sugar source in the honey is something that some people, that's all they can enjoy. So, with the Montgomery County Beekeepers Association is a very active group. It's a large-scale group. It just keeps on growing. growing.
Yes, it does.
But the fact is that you guys focus on agriculture, and you guys focus on different types of educational opportunities, the programs you provide on a monthly basis. Talk a little bit about those and the diversity. I know there's been some healthcare workers have been in there talking about the honey and the pollen itself that's gathered and how it's used for medicinal purposes.
Right.
So it's incredible the information you guys are sharing.
Well, the education end of it is just far-reaching. It's everywhere from the medicinal purposes of it to the benefits to our environment. But Montgomery County Beekeepers Association, we do travel. A lot of the members are asked to speak at the garden clubs or the Daylily Club. We've got one of our members going to speak at a garden club over Friday, I believe.
Right.
But we go to
Daycares
elementary
and
schools.
and
The TBA has a honey queen program, and at least once a year, that honey queen comes, and we parade her around all of Montgomery County, take her to the elementary schools, and she is such an advocate for teaching the young children what the importance of honeybees is. Our mission is to educate. James and I's position in the club is to educate and to teach those that come in and say, I don't know anything about bees. I think I can buy a box, put bees in it, and be a beekeeper. And we have to tell them there's a little more to that than you think. So, but I know you know this, Mike, that last year we had a beautiful honeybee booth at the Montgomery County Fair and Rodeo. We're going to again this year.
Super.
I believe that's April 8th through the 17th. Is that correct?
Correct.
And Moco Bees has a fabulous booth there. It's usually situated in the Ag Knowledge Barn with all of the children's stuff. And we take turns and have observation hives. And, of course, everybody wants to know where's the queen? Where's the queen? And
it is a great event.
It is.
We enjoy the flow of traffic, which primarily is the younger age group, young adults. And then some old-time beekeepers come through and like to talk as well. We utilize the club members to almost full capacity, where we have a rotational shift of members that come through. So we have fresh personnel on hand to answer the questions, and the questions do tend to be the same ones over and over and over.
Have you ever been stung?
Yeah.
But,
well, a time or two.
But that's great.
It is.
The purpose for our club's existence, and it's also true for the Texas organization, the TBA, is to promote and educate beekeeping.
Mm-hmm. And the fellowship, because that's, I'll send a lot of folks to it, and they don't realize how open that club is as far as, someone walks in there that is green as it can be, walk in there and be greeted and receive all the information willingly.
Right.
Folks are willing to share it. I mean, there's no secrets. If something's working, they'll share it.
Absolutely.
And help you fine-tune your program. And that's, to me, one of the strongest things about this club is its ability to work with anybody and help anybody be successful.
It truly is. And our Mentee Mentor program, which we're very proud of in its 4th year, and you can come in as not even have a bee, and join with a mentor, and they're going to help you walk your way all the way through it. And it's imperative that happen, because there's so many things you read on the internet. If it's on the internet, it must be true, right? Yeah, maybe
Scary.
not. Isn't it, though? When we have our meeting, actually, I want to back up and say we're the 3rd Monday of every month at the extension office at the Texas AgriLife Extension office in the Master Gardener building, Tom Leroy Educational Building.
And we wholeheartely are thankful for the opportunity to meet there.
Oh yeah, we the facility's beyond.
It's
it
wonderful.
Meets every need we have. I always about every other month I go, Mike, are we exceeding the people limit? No, you're good. But at 6:30 we do have a 30-minute what we call a newbie, yes, pun intended, newbie meeting that kind of gives definitions, explains words like hive, colony, nuke, queen, worker, drone. It just kind of gives you those that have just never even touched a book on it, really, just kind of an overview. But our club is very welcoming. I know you've stopped in many times.
It is. We do have members who do not have bees and who may never have bees, but they come for the fellowship, for the knowledge that they have and how they can relate that to their own individual garden or personal interest. But education and truly defined education, where we're not an experimental club.
Right.
We teach basic beekeeping practices.
Tried
and
and
as a matter of fact, our meeting this coming month in January is basic beekeeping. It's starting from ground zero.
Well, I think the title is You Want to Be a Beekeeper.
So you want to be a beekeeper. This is what's involved. Who makes a good beekeeper and who would not make a good beekeeper? And it'll be a real interesting program, and it starts at the beginning of the year,
right,
where our colonies are. Their spring comes much earlier than our spring. They start ramping up in January, and by February, they're ready to get out and get busy.
And we've got to start making splits at the end of February, 1st of March on that kind of
Explain what a split is.
A split?
Yes.
A split is if you've got a colony of about 30,000, 45, 50,000 bees, in the nice March beautiful day, you can split that, add a queen to half of that colony, take half of the frames, the brood, which is the babies, the eggs, and honey, and divide it in two, and you have two colonies. You've taken it and doubled your population within just 2 weeks.
Right,
21 days from the day that an egg is laid till it's a working part of the population.
Well, let's go ahead and just, as long as we're talking about that splitting and the requeening, how important is that? Because, I mean, there's been a lot of publicity over the years as far as Africanized bees, and everybody knows that genetics is here, but the fact that our beekeepers are requeening on a regular basis and keeping those genetics right so that we've got the docile genetics there and not the more aggressive genetics that we hear so much information about that is not true.
It's really non-existent. It isn't true.
No.
I mean, they're Africanized bees, and James can go into more detail of it. It's there,
Sure.
but as a beekeeper, number one, Africanized bees don't produce honey well. So if we see African tendencies in our colony, we're going to requeen.
That's exactly right. The concept of the Africanized bee, they typically exist in South Texas. That's where they were first discovered by coincidentally, the Texas Honeybee Lab.
At A&M on the Riverside
that's
campus.
Right. They were down there, and they made their initial discovery. But when we have a colony that has a tendency to be extra mean, we probably inappropriately label it as potentially Africanized, but very rarely is that the case. Honeybees are just like people. They have good days, they have bad days, they have temperaments.
They do.
If it's been rainy and cold, they get irritated.
They do.
If it's been too hot, they get irritated. And so we have to take all that in stride. But as part of the management practice, yes, we do requeen. If we see that a colony of bees is not producing the numbers that it should, that it's not having enough babies, then the queen is old or has a problem, she's been hurt or is inferior in some manner. And it's up to us to assist that colony to be a strong colony. Otherwise, it'll shrink and die.
That's right.
So managing it is crucial to what we're
we've been to some programs at that honeybee lab at A&M, which is just it's an awesome facility if you ever get the chance to go there, and James and I have learned so much. One of the main reasons that commercial beekeepers, majority of them, requeen every year is because of the productivity of that queen. As she ages, the quality of those eggs decreases. Her pheromone levels decrease.
And it's not as if we're interfering with nature per se, because the colony will eventually do that themselves.
They will. That's what a swarm is.
Mm-hmm.
That's exactly right. When if the colony notices that the pheromone level is down, which is the chemical that directs the activities of the bees, tells them what they need to be doing.
Absolutely.
A colony of bees functions as I would call it a superorganism, where they're all working for the one goal.
Mm-hmm.
And if one member of that participating group is falling down, others are going to step in and take its place. So they will kick that queen out,
especially if it's that main member,
in a self-preservation method, and requeen themselves.
How's our sources? I know after 2011, just the drought really cratered things, and we were having trouble getting bee stocks, being able to buy those queens and things like that. So is our supplies up there? So kind of meeting needs? Are we still at a deficit?
The guys in Navasota, the weavers, we've got our weaver and bee weaver and also Kenny and Wendy Reed in Montgomery.
Right.
Those three primarily are where most of our club gets their bees from, and they did have an issue a couple of years ago. Part of it was drought, part of it was drone viability, and we didn't find that out until we attended a seminar for Sue Colby, that's a world-renowned queen inseminator, was talking about the drone viability and the fact that it makes inferior queens. They don't live very long. Their egg production is very low. And when you take drought or too much rain and you put all of those factors in together, you're going to end up with a not a good stock. But I think that they've recovered
somewhat. Locally, I think our supply of replacement bees is good. As Sherry mentioned, the local suppliers are great people. They do a wonderful job. They're a great asset to our community and our
club.
Our club, county and surrounding counties.
Yeah, for a while, I mean, they were backlogged, and
they're still backlogged.
Yeah.
Because so many of us, we want to requeen, so we're ordering, 6 or 7, 10, 12, 20 queens, and that's a lot. And they're working their buns off in Navasota or even in Montgomery trying to get us the product that we want. And it's probably worse than any other ag product that, it's this tiny, tiny little insect, and the slightest little thing, she can die. Right. They may have a huge order and it looked really good, and then all of a sudden, right before time for delivery, half of your orders die.
Okay. We do have some members who reach out. Hawaiian queens are really popular.
And they're good. They're
right.
actually very good. The Varroa-resistant queens are very, very good. And that's what we're all trying to... What is that called? The
Varroa hygienic.
Hygienic.
Correct.
We're working on some second generation Varroa hygienic queens, and we've been very pleased with their honey production and the her brood viability. It's been very well.
Yeah, and I don't think people realize the genetics and how critical. And even back on the management, after we come back from break, we were talking about their attitude and things like that. If we're not harvesting that honey on a regular basis or on a timely basis, do they not get a little protective of that box? And that can make a difference in their attitude also. So we'll go to break and be back shortly. You're listening to the Extension Hour on Lone Star Internet Radio every Friday afternoon at 1 p.m.
At Jazzy Junk, volunteers reclaim, restore, and recycle. Jazzy Junk is a non-profit resale storefront where you will discover wonderful, unique finds at very affordable prices on furniture, antiques, books, art, home decor, and more. When you shop Jazzy Junk, you support New Danville, a community for adults with developmental disabilities. We receive new donations daily, so plan a visit to Jazzy Junk today to find that perfect item or gift. Our motto is here today, gone today. So remember to hurry in and shop often for the best selection. Jazzy Junk is located in the outlets at Conroe on League Line Road and I-45 North. Call 936-441-4500 or visit our website, jazzyjunk.org. That's JUNQUE for more information and store hours.
Hello, I'm Bonita DeRosa, Animal Control Officer for the City of Willis. We invite you to tune in to Lone Star Internet Radio every first and third Thursday of the month at 11 a.m. for the Willis Hour. On the first Thursday of the month, the Willis Hour will be covering upcoming events and news about the city. Join in the conversation with your city officials and other leaders in the community. On the third, we will be doing a recap of the last City Council meeting. The mission of the City of Willis is to provide high-quality services, accountability, and professional commitment to our citizens. We pledge to provide those who live, work, and visit our city an effective government that is open and responsive to the needs and values of the community. Again, we invite you to tune in on Lone Star Internet Radio every first and third Thursday of the month at 11 for the Willis Hour.
SPCA PetSnap of Montgomery County is a 501c3 all-volunteer-based rescue and adoption organization with a no-kill policy for healthy and adoptable animals. Our goals are fourfold: to rescue and rehabilitate homeless animals, to provide a safe haven for the animals until a suitable adoption or foster care home is found or until they are reunited with their owner, to educate the public about the great need to reduce pet population, which includes the importance of having their pets spayed and neutered, and to further the cause for humane and responsible pet ownership, and to provide a low-cost spay-neuter clinic for people who are unable to afford to spay or neuter their pets otherwise. SPCA PetSnap of Montgomery County encourages you to think adoption first. You can contact us at www.spcaofmc.com.
You're listening to the Extension Hour on Lone Star Internet Radio every Friday afternoon at 1 p.m.
Alrighty, as we get into our last segment here of the Agricultural Toolbox, it's been a great pleasure to have James and Sherry Elam with us today, talking about beekeeping and the fact that it's just incredible. The bees, the more you read about them, the less you know. I mean, it's just incredible. If you go to look at the way the population exists and what goes on, and the chemistry and what makes
so interesting.
It just I think the more we think we know, the less we know. And there's been a lot of things over time, colony collapsing, and just there's a lot of pesticide things that everybody's having to be aware of. And that's the neat thing about the club. The club has really been active as far as education and being advocates for beekeepers. And I think that's the biggest thing to do is working together. There's been some things that have gone on, and there's some opportunities out there for landowners that want to be involved with beekeeping and realizing. Let's talk first about the timber tax certificate that goes through the comptroller's office. That anybody that's involved with agriculture and has actually a business opportunity there in place can apply for this timber tax. And in fact, it was just renewed December 31. Everybody had one prior to that. They expired and they were forced to renew, and now they're good through 2019, I think. I believe so. Is a new certificates. But I mean, if you're claiming to be utilize agriculture and be exempt from sales tax on items utilized for that production of that activity, you need to go through the comptroller's office and apply for that. And again, it is a tool there, but again, you're making a declaration that you're an agricultural producer. Absolutely. You're producing a commodity, and it can't be just for the funsies of it. So, people need to realize that opportunity is there. And these kinds of things come about because of clubs, and they're advocates for making things happen.
Right. Locally and statewide, there are new tax codes that are in effect that allow beekeeping to fall under agriculture, much like livestock and hay production do, in that if you establish your history like you have to do for any other exemption, then bees now qualify under the new definition of agriculture. Mm-hmm. Honeybees do. You don't have to be a commercial producer of product. You just have to produce the product.
Correct. Right. And as long as any of those ag use evaluations that you get through the appraisal district, you are producing a commodity that is marketed. That's the bottom line.
That has value.
Right. If it's being sold and there is income, then that's where you're able to look at that. And you do have to establish a history. You just walk in 5 years. Say, you don't just say, I'm a producer.
I'm a beekeeper. I have a box. It's white. It has bees in it.
Right. So like you're talking about there, that appraisal district opportunity is there. Visit with the appraisal district and get your history set up and visit with those guys down there as far as the kind of records and documentation that you need to have to prove your history and be eligible for that evaluation.
The basic eligibility is a minimum of 5 acres and not more than 20 acres to qualify for the exemption.
And it can 6.
And it can be a part of, because if there's different opportunities, whether it be hay production, livestock, and you can get down to small goats and Christmas trees, and there's lots of commodities that fall under that. So you could actually have parcels of land. Some might be under timber, some might be under wildlife evaluation. You could have beekeeping in another area. So you've got the opportunity to utilize those different classifications.
And just like I assume livestock is, that you don't have to be the owner of the colonies.
Correct.
You just have to show pollination needs for your property.
Yeah, we've been hearing or getting more emails on that. Hey, I've got 25 acres over here. If anybody's got some bees they want to put on it for my ag exemption. But, it works. There's a lot of people that it's just like cows. You can't put more than a certain amount of cows on a certain amount of acres because they'll overgraze. Same with bees. They travel a 3-mile radius for foraging, but you don't want to put too many bees in one area. So,
okay. One other thing I wanted to just touch on right quick before we go is the Cottage Food Act that they were trying to stiffen some guidelines there, the Health and Food Services industry or the department, and they were really going to make it hard for our smaller beekeepers to have a product that they'd be able to market without just really severe guidelines penalties. and equipment that they had to handle with, and
Well, we're more than busting proud on that one. What came about was Senate Bill 1766, and that enables a small scale beekeeper that produces less than 2,500 or less pounds of honey per year, exempts them from a food manufacturer's license. Right. Honey couldn't fall under the cottage food law because it's cottage food encompasses when you prepare food like breads or jellies manufactured. Right. Honey's honey. It's got one ingredient. It has honey.
You don't mess with it.
You don't mess with it. So it couldn't fall under the cottage food, which exempts those folks from food manufacturer's license. So we were thrilled that our Lisa Hyder, that past president of MoCo Bees, her with the efforts of the TBA, went to Austin, and also our local senator, Brandon Creighton, it was his bill, Senate Bill 1766, became effective September 1st. So we are able to sell honey legally. Of course, we stress in our club that we want you to do good cleaning practices, good bottling practices, clean bottles, clean facility. All of that falls in line. The TBA has really gotten on a bandwagon with that and actually provided us a little cap sticker that says that we fall under, that we're a hobbyist beekeeper. We fall under the Senate Bill 1766, and it gives the website directive.
Okay, one other thing before we go. I know you had a very successful field or program June of 2015, and I understand we're going to do that again in 2016.
June 18th at the Lone Star Convention Center. I want everybody to come out, and we'll try to get Dick to promote it for us.
Look for the agenda, but I mean it's got something for everybody,
awesome.
From the novice to the master. If you're accomplished or if you're just getting started, they have got something for you.
That's right.
We appreciate the time with you today and hopefully you got something from the program today. Again, the Montgomery County Beekeeper Association is there to help you out, so stop by and visit with them the third Monday of each month at 6:30 in the evening.